to clean this valve because it's leaking. You can't undo the fittings with your fingers because they're too tight. You can use the tool. Just slide the tool over the fitting, and you can use that to unscrew it. So you can do the rest by hand. So now that our fittings are loose, we can undo the 2 screws that hold the valve in place using a 2mm Allen key. One screw. So before we undo the last screw, just screw in a bit of tubing and a fitting into the middle port. And now we can undo that last screw. And it stops that valve from falling back if we put a bit of tubing in there. So now we can just now hold this valve. We can push it in, and we need to just tip it out. We tip one corner out first, and then we can tip out the other corner. You wriggle it, and the other one comes out. That's in behind. You'll have the connector. So we just undo the electrical connector. So there's our valve. So that's why we need this just to hold it. We need to push it in. Pull out one of the corners first, and then pull out the other corner. So 95% of the time, if the valve is leaking, all you need to do is just clean the membrane inside. So to do that, we just grab the Phillips head screwdriver, and we undo these 2 screws. Take out one, take out the other one, and I'm holding this. I'm holding the 2 pieces together so they don't, because there's a spring there, just so they don't fall apart. And so now we can pull this apart. So that we separate that bottom assembly from this valve assembly. So if you see something here, you can clean off with your finger, maybe some particles on those O-rings. But we need to undo these 4 screws as well. So when we undo these 4 screws, we can just take off this part, and this is where you would see you need to hold this part. There's a spring there, so just hold those to come off. And usually you will find some sort of particle on this membrane seal, so you just clean that, get some ethanol and a lint-free tissue, and just clean up that surface, clean up the rubber, and then you can also double check that there's no corresponding any particles on the other side of this assembly here. There's no particle there. Once you do that, once you clean that, put the valve back together. 95% of the time that'll fix any leak issue with the valve. So we can put it back. Screw it back together. Now we screw our subber base back on, and there's only one way it can go on. If there's a locking pin, if you put it the wrong way, it won't line up, so it can only go one way. And put those screws back. Make sure it's tight, the screws. So that's a rebuilt valve. We can connect this one back. So electrically, again, it can only go one way, the connector. And then we just put it back in. And again, we take care of the orientation. The two-way valves are always on top. And with the three-way valves, you just need to put it back the same way you pulled it out, which means this connector is on the top. The wiring comes out at the top. So you need to make sure when you put the valve back, it's not upside down with the wiring at the bottom, it's with the wiring at the top. So you just push the wiring in, and now you can slide it in place. And again, you put one end in first, so the top end in first, push it all the way in, and then you can put it in the bottom, and then pull it back out with that tubing. Fit the mounting screws back. One screw, the other screw. You can remove your tubing holder and reconnect the tubing. You do it finger tight, and you can grab your tool and just do about an eighth of a turn. Tool. So that's how you either clean a valve or replace a valve.